Huge news. Huge news dropping. No, not Shohei Ohtani signs with the Dodgers. No, not Juan Soto is traded to the Yankees. No, the Marlins have traded for a catcher. This is Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from England. Welcome to Locked On Marlins. This is your daily Marlins podcast. I am your host, Peter Pratt. Hit me up, of course, on X, formerly known as Twitter. I think my Alexa was starting to play then. I don't know where that came from. Must have just heard Locked On Marlins and started playing a jingle. Wow. I've got her well trained. Nevertheless, what was I saying? It is Locked On Marlins. It's your daily Marlins podcast. It's your team every day. And thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen. And guys, we are back. Back, baby. You may have realized last week, limited amounts of pods. The one that I did, quality was low. It's fair to say. I've been laid up all week, but I'm feeling 85% back. So the podcast must continue, guys. There is a YouTube channel as well, of course. Make sure you hit subscribe there too. That is also called Locked On Marlins. And if you are watching, you will realize it is Monday. And what does that mean? It means one thing. Sean Barrett, the UK GOAT, is in the house also. Sean, how we doing, brother?
I'm doing well, Pete. I'm glad to hear that you're feeling a lot better now. Not least of all because that means I get to talk baseball with you.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. And many will not know this or be able to tell at this point, but Sean Barrett, it's fair to say you had an eventful evening last night. A few beers were sunk at the boxing, and maybe you're not feeling 85% or above today. I don't know, but nevertheless, great to have you on the show, mate. And I'm sure it was a fun Sunday evening. There is tons to get into. There's a lot been happening across baseball in general. We're going to have to talk about the state of journalism. We have to cover that topic. We have to. We're going to talk about Shohei Ohtani. Now with the Dodgers, with what seemingly is one of the most creative financial packages in the history of baseball. We also talk about Juan Soto heading over to the Yankees. So we got some big themes to talk about and also some Marlins news sprinkled in there too, with them making a trade. They didn't send any players. They just sent some money. Oh, how times have changed for the Marlins. So there's tons, absolutely tons to get into. Looking forward to this one. This episode is sponsored by FanDuel. And you can make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Sean Barrett, we are going to get started with the big news. I would say historic news. Shohei Ohtani to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Your immediate reaction on that one?
I was kind of glad that the number was where it was because I, pre his injury, said that he'd probably get close to $1 billion. And then when with the arm injury and the fact that he's not going to pitch in 2024, a lot of people, as you would expect, said that he'd get less money. So $700 million, which is an awful lot of money, but also for a transcendental player, like that's kind of what he's worth.
Yeah.
Maybe in my mind it's still a bit below, but there it is. But yeah, no, $700 million to the Dodgers. I mean, that was probably the way it was always going to happen, wasn't it? To the Dodgers for an awful lot of money.
Yeah, I think so. I think the Dodgers were always the front runners on this one. What was your take on the whole, they wanted silence. They didn't want the kind of gossip out there. And it was going to be like it would be seen as a negative situation if a team announced that they'd even spoken to Ohtani. And next thing is then Dave Roberts kind of strolls out in a press conference like, yeah, we met with Ohtani and a couple of days back in LA and it was a really productive meeting. And, he's our number one priority. Next thing is a massive load of rumors spike up that maybe Ohtani's going to the Blue Jays. I thought it was one of the wildest kind of situations going on. But I love Dave Roberts for that, by the way, just coming out and just speaking the truth, which, there's nothing wrong with that. But a wild situation nevertheless, right?
It was strange to me because it was almost like the anti-LeBron decision thing, where obviously LeBron got an awful lot of stick for that, and then Ohtani comes out and says, "Look, I don't want it to be this huge mess. I don't, I want to be able to just do my negotiations in private, and then we'll announce it when we need to announce it." And he got attacked for it, and it was kind of crazy. Like, people get attacked for wanting to be in the limelight, and so when someone wants to be able to do their business behind closed doors. And have a bit of peace and not have it be a zoo, all of a sudden it's attacked because people want that information out there. So yeah, a strange one. But yeah, as far as plane watch as it was that one evening, is he on a plane to Toronto? Is he not on a plane to Toronto? Who knows? But it was pretty crazy. But that's what you expect, isn't it? Like, it's the off season. Small news becomes big news, and big news becomes massive news.
How many people were tracking this flight from the LA region to Toronto? This like private jet flight that ends up being some businessman or something. I mean, absolutely wild scenes going on. Next thing is, JP, John Morosi's out there, peddling information that ends up being completely false, and he's got to walk it back. I mean, it's funny, right? Like, there's certain national journalists that we follow and turn to for information. There's more local journalists that me personally, I follow a lot more closely and trust their knowledge more so. But I have to say, from a journalistic perspective, the way that this whole Ohtani situation was covered was embarrassing, to be honest with you. And I think all those national journalists probably, maybe Passan, can get a pass, so to speak. But everyone else, I would say, it was pretty embarrassing, and it was a poor state of affairs for journalism and the coverage of this whole Ohtani situation. And I think the even funnier thing was at the back end was that no one ended up breaking the deal because Ohtani broke it himself. And so everyone ended up just fully redundant. So, yeah, bad couple of days for journalism. A good day, though, and a good situation here for Shohei Ohtani. To your point, though, do you think, though, with this Tommy John injury, that actually there was money left on the table at $700 million? There was money left on the table for him.
I honestly think there was. I mean, it takes if money was the only factor, and I don't believe it is, although it's a huge factor. It is a case of there needs to be two teams, don't they, that are going to go that far. But yeah, I honestly think $1 billion for the length of the period of the contract as it is, it's going to pay him up to his late 30s. I know a lot of people look at that number, 70 million a year, and think it's crazy. It's the end of baseball. It's going to destroy baseball. Like, the Dodgers rake in an awful lot of money. They have a 25-year local rights TV deal that pays them $8.35 billion over the life of that contract, which is like north of 300 a year.
Wow.
The Dodgers are going to be fine. I remember when they signed that deal in 2014, and I thought, that's it. Like, no one can touch the Dodgers now for spending. I wasn't expecting Cohen to
it's funny, right?
Multi-billionaire to buy a team and just splurge like crazy. But ultimately, the money that there is in baseball, I hate to see people on Twitter or wherever else talking about how the numbers are getting crazy for the players. They're not. This is just represents the money that is in baseball. It's. I think Shohei is such a special player that it's going to take some time to see someone go past that number, but that number will be passed, probably within the life of this contract.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that, actually, by the way, that I think this will be passed within the life of the contract, but probably, I would say, not in the next 3 seasons. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. When do you think a 10-year, $700 million deal for a near 30-year-old two-way player, when do you think that moment will come where the Dodgers will start to not see value from that on the field? Let's take the off-the-field stuff, because I think fundamentally there's $70 million per annum off the field before he even does anything, if they play it right. But from an on-field perspective, and considering there are kind of like luxury tax thresholds and whatever, how far into this contract do the Dodgers start turning around going, oh boy, I'm not sure that the juice is worth the squeeze here, or the investment, we're realizing the investment here. Is it going to be 5 years into the 10? Is it going to be even sooner than that? I mean, some of this, I think, does link back to like just how effective he can be on the mound. I think maybe as a DH, like clearly the career can be prolonged, but for me, this comes back to like, what can he do on the mound and how efficient can he be for how long is how kind of valuable this contract becomes. So I'm really interested to see this one play out. What's your sense of when the Dodgers will turn around and go, we'd like to move this money if we could?
Well, it's a really difficult one, isn't it? Because they are going to make that money back. I'm sure of that through
100%
through different marketing schemes and promotional work, and just simply by having arguably the greatest player of his generation,
of all time.
So, if you wanted to look at it just in the black and white of 70 million per year, what are you getting on the field? Like that's 9 WAR basically. You're paying for if you use the 8 million per WAR. And that number has probably crept up a bit now more recently, but ultimately they're not going to recoup the value on the field.
No,
even from year one. This is almost like you could say 400 million of that contract is a signing bonus of simply we know we're going to get that money back. That the Dodgers knew that they can recoup that money, so it was almost a name your price. We'll pay whatever is the cost to do this transaction, and they'll spread the money. That we've not had the details yet, but they're going to spread the money over with deferments and things like that to keep under that salary tax. Which obviously at this point now, anything over the highest bracket is like 100% tax. So it's worth doing that. And with that, they'll actually spend, the spending money will actually be less than 700 million. But on the field, I don't think at any point will they be looking at it and going, he's only a X WAR player now. We're not getting our 70 million worth. They'll recoup that money. They'll get their value from that contract for sure.
Yeah, I love the way you phrase that though there, Sean, to be honest with you, that like a good portion of that is like a signing bonus. And it's just, they know that's recoupable from all of the off-field stuff and etc. The one thing I think that's interesting here and how it kind of connects into the Marlins is like, this is going to be good news because the whole revenue sharing and whatever piece, I'm pretty sure that like jersey sales and all that kind of stuff all kind of filter into the pot. And so the Marlins are going to benefit from this in some sort of way where if they keep blasting out Ohtani jerseys and they keep selling in LA, the Marlins are a revenue sharing, I guess, receiving club. And so they'll see some of this in some sort of ways, which is going to be encouraging. I've no idea what's going on with my Alexa, but it keeps playing every 5 minutes, some little jingle. I don't know what's going on. Nevertheless, it's time for our first ad. So let's do that. And then we want to talk about another massive move in baseball. That's Juan Soto, a guy that for regular listeners, and there's a lot of regular listeners, have been listening to the show for a few years now, as long as I've been doing it. Me and Sean were talking about Juan Soto to the Marlins via a trade a few years ago, before he was traded the first time, when everyone said, Pete, there's no way Juan Soto is going to be traded from the Washington Nationals. He's now been traded twice before free agency. That is how wild it is. And the question is why? Nevertheless, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and you can score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's number one sportsbook. Right now, new customers, and the emphasis is on new customers, get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app, well, it's super easy to use, and it has all of the betting options you need, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Hey, you're back here with me, Peter Pratt, and the UK GOAT, Sean Barrett, on Monday, the 11th of December. The Dolphins are in action, by the way. Speaking of FanDuel in the NFL, Dolphins are in action. Almost my Rams. almost did the business against the Ravens. What a stunning game, by the way. They couldn't get it done. Pick 6 to end it on that one, unfortunately. But Dolphins going this evening. Sean, what's your view on the Dolphins here? Are they going to make some noise tonight?
I think they'll continue their winning ways for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
This is definitely the best season I've ever had to watch. I'm actually enjoying watching them this year.
I've had to watch.
This is probably one of the best seasons I've seen for a
Yeah.
long time since. Actually, they got knocked out in the playoffs against the Ravens. Actually, Chad Pennington years. That's how old I am.
Oh boy, he's holding back the years there. Bloody hell. Either way, Dolphins on this evening, which should be good. I did see our man Andy Slater has a massive bet rolling over as well. I don't know if anyone's seen this on Twitter or not. He has got a $200 bet, a parlay in American terms anyway, when you talk about betting. A parlay. In UK language, that is called an accumulator. But nevertheless, a parlay, a 6-player parlay. Anytime TD scorer. Andy Slater, our man, $200 down. He's picked 6 guys. 5 of them have already come in. He has Raheem Mostert this evening, anytime TD for $200 to take home 26 grand. Andy Slater, love to see it. I assume it's his bet. The way he was sharing it was his bet. Maybe it isn't. Nevertheless, whoever's bet it is, good luck for Raheem Mostert. I believe it's with Hard Rock Bets as well. So that brand new betting organization into South Florida. They might be bankrupt after this one. Who knows? Nevertheless, let's continue the action here talking about Juan Soto. I am going off on all sorts of segues. You can tell I have been lying down on my bed, not speaking to anyone for a week, maybe more. The amount of segues here. Nevertheless, Sean Barrett, Juan Soto to the Yankees, mate. The Yankees seemingly identified Soto early doors, and they just went and got him. The interesting part here with Juan Soto, it's a 1-year situation for the Yankees. They gave up 5 dudes to go and get Juan Soto in a 1-year deal. And I think the main question on everyone's lips will be at this point, can the Yankees find a way to extend Juan Soto this season? For me, that's the key question. Do you think they get it done, or do you think Soto hits free agency?
I would be shocked if he doesn't go to free agency. I think the Yankees they're now leader in the clubhouse to get him signed for now, because obviously he's with the team. They can have those talks. But it's still going to be like he's going to want to go to free. He's going to want to earn what he knows he's worth. And he's already proven that with declining what I think are actually embarrassing offers for his play. So my biggest question is, like, if this is a case of the Yankees are going all in on 1 year, it's a really interesting tactic when you know they've got some big contracts on their books with Judge and they're there for long periods of time. It's not like this is all accumulating at the end of one last push of all in.
Mm-hmm.
So they either really feel like they're got a good chance of offering him a number that he'll accept, or they're just, they're being stupid in my eyes. They've got this insane middle of the lineup now, but it's the rest of it is a little bit flimsy. The rotation is, it's laughable. And Michael King, the guy that they traded away, would have been a real key piece in their rotation for a playoff push. So it was really interesting to me. I mean, yes, they can go out and get some more pitching depth, but then we've got that dreaded salary cap tax ceiling that everyone seems quite afraid of going over. So they've either got to be inventive with some of their contracts, or they've got to be willing to spend, or they're just going to ride with what they got, which in my eyes would be a huge mistake.
What's Giancarlo Stanton's role going to be for the Yankees in 24, do you think? And again, could he be moved? Do you see a situation where the Yankees try to move Giancarlo Stanton in some sort of way at this point?
I can see them wanting to. But that is $105 million left on the contract that is going to be difficult to get rid of. And at this point, like, it's painful to see him play at 34. Like, what's he going to look like when he's 37, 38? Yeah, I mean, I know a lot was made about that deal, the trade to the Yankees when it was first done, and how the Marlins got nothing back for it. But it was a pure salary dump. It was a salary dump of someone that they knew was going to age poorly, because he'd been injured throughout his, basically the whole of his career, and the biggest determination for injury is previous injury. So I think the Marlins did a very good job of dealing him when they dealt him, because I mean, 32 million a year, that would sink the Marlins at this point for a player we're struggling with 12 with Garcia.
I know.
Imagine if it was 32 and you're getting the same poor production. Yeah, it's painful to see. And I don't get any pleasure out of it, but I'm awfully glad that that's not our problem to have.
Well, and here's the news as well. It's pertinent for this day in that it's 6 years to the day today when Giancarlo Stanton was traded to the Yankees. I think Eli Sussman maybe shared that, or the Fish on First account, but I think it was Eli pulling the strings behind the scenes on that one. And the funny thing was as well, in the picture, the image that was used, actually Stanton smiling, but Brian Cashman already looks like he knows he's made the wrong call on this one, which is interesting. The news around Giancarlo Stanton is they're hoping that he comes in less heavy, I think, less just it's not like it's fat with Stanton, clearly, but like he's just maybe over bulked, over muscular, and maybe trying to get him a bit more leaner, just get the mobility back rather than just the pure muscle that maybe has just kind of slowed him down kind of as he's started to age here. I don't know, just too many weights, not enough speedballs, or whatever the saying is from a film that I watched 25 years ago. If anyone knows the name of that film, then please let me know what it is. I can't recall it top of my head. But I think this Soto situation in New York is extremely, extremely intriguing. What's most intrigued me, Sean, we'll finish here because we're kind of running out of time here, and we haven't got time to open up the trades the Marlins have made. But the interesting part for me is 2 blockbuster deals here. Ohtani, obviously, a free agent deal. Soto, a trade. Neither of them, it seems that either as well have come even close, but neither have landed with the New York Mets. Do you remember last offseason? Anyone big time, any name was going to the Mets. Steve Cohen came in and just bought everyone up. Steve Cohen looks like, I mean, have we heard anything from the Mets? Like, are they in a rebuild? What's going on with the Mets? And why are they not even linked to Shohei Ohtani and Juan Soto? For me, that's the most surprising thing this offseason thus far, is the silence and the lack of reporting and energy coming out of the Mets. What's going on?
I'll give you one number, and that's $278 million. That is currently what they're estimated to have as a payroll.
Oh,
that is nursing just below the final tax threshold. I don't think they have the money. They have the money. I don't know whether they have the willingness to continue to spend that money.
Are they going to have to create a new tax threshold for the Mets if they continue?
Well, Steve Cohen, or specifically the Mets, but it was Steve Cohen paying the money. I think they paid over $100 million last year in tax on going over the payroll. So that's a healthy chunk of change. That's more than a couple of teams paid in payroll. So I think it is a case of they did a lot of spending last off season. Almost like a kid in the candy shop, and then realizing that you can't do that every single year.
No, a shame.
Or you certainly start seeing your bank balance go down. No matter how big your bank balance is, you can always outspend it on a sports team.
Yeah, for sure. I've actually just restarted again. I mean, I'm going off on another segue, but it is what it is. I've just restarted watching Billions, which I believe is loosely based on Steve Cohen, by the way. So I've been enjoying that one. Actually, the Mets and Citi Field appear in Series 3 at some point. Anyway, I'm going off on another segue. I just think it's really intriguing that the Mets just went so in for everyone in 23 and now in 24, when actually 2 even better players than the ones they were able to acquire in 23 are actually available. And it seems like the Mets, they've already shot their budget, like it's already cooked. When, like, if they'd have just held it back, thought about this strategically, and thought, yeah, Shohei Ohtani's probably going to be a free agent. Like, that could probably be the business move and the baseball move that would satisfy Steve Cohen. And he's left with retaining Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander's money. He may be good with numbers, but unfortunately, baseball thus far proven not to be his game. Guys, we're going to call it a day there. And here's my pledge to you. We're going to hit a double episode. We're going to hit the second episode. We're going to get into this trade that the Marlins have made. I gave it the tease that was the big news. It is the big news. It's so big, it's going to have its own episode coming at you real soon, straight after this one. Thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day and joining me, Peter Pratt, and the UK GOAT, Sean Barrett. Keep your eyes peeled, guys, because there's a second episode dropping immediately, and we'll see you then.